Velma has finally finished, at least the first season that is. I know, terrifying. In my last video discussing the show, there were only 4 episodes at the time, and so despite how bad it was, I think it's at least fair to give it a full review, because even the worst shows have room to improve, and so that begs the question, did Velma get better since the first 4 episodes? Well, the simple answer is, no, it still sucks. In my last video, I said that the best part about the show was the concept. I thought it was interesting to show the origins of the mystery gang, but I also thought the main story was interesting as well. However, there was one major factor that ruined any chance the show had of being good, and that being the execution. First off, they take each of the Scooby-Doo characters who are all decent people with likable traits, and they turn them into complete narcissistic assholes. Velma is an asshole, Daphne is an asshole, and Fred is an asshole. The only real exception is Shaggy, aka Norville. He was probably the most likable character in the entire show, but even then, they still turn him into something that he's not. He's anti-drug, he's a simp, and he never once says the word like or zoinks. Despite the fact that Shaggy was always a stoner and a chick magnet, yeah that's right, Shaggy was always getting riz. Now there were definitely some changes that went on with the characters throughout the show, like Velma and Daphne becoming lesbians, Fred becoming a male feminist, Shaggy getting a girlfriend, and the introduction of Scooby-Doo. Let me explain. I said in my last video that Scooby was nowhere to be seen, but that changed in episode 6, where they introduced some sort of brain transfer project that is literally called Scooby, and they even had Velma say, "What did Scooby do?" If you haven't seen the show, Project Scooby basically involves taking the brain of an adult and putting it in the body of a teenager, basically as a way to make quote-unquote meddling kids less dumb. Now this didn't exactly happen in the show, but there was a theory going around that the brain of an adult was going to be put inside of a dog, thus creating Scooby-Doo, and if this did happen, I would probably have mixed feelings about it. On one hand, it would make a lot of sense, but on the other, do you really need an explanation for something like this? So overall, the characters do go through changes in the series, but they're still pretty unlikable, and Shaggy actually became less likable. Another big flaw of the show was the crappy meta humor, and that not surprisingly doesn't go away. There's a bunch of moments when Velma or other characters are pretending that they're in Family Guy Rick and Morty, like they keep referencing the fact that they're in the show and trying to tell the audience what to be thinking. There's a bunch of references to race, sex, and sexuality, clearly intended to be politically correct. For example, there's a bunch of references to white people being privileged, and how people listen to men more than women, and they're really pushing that one specifically in episode 7, where Velma dresses up like a man, and suddenly all of her flaws are now her strengths. It's all just really dumb and unnecessary, and it just makes it obvious that the writers hate their audience. Another issue I talked about in my last video is how they sexualize the female characters in the show, and the reason this is a problem is because most of them are around 15 years old, which just makes it weird and creepy. I said before my last video, and I'll say it again, if the show had nothing to do with Scooby-Doo, it would still suck, but it wouldn't be as bad as it is. If they wanted to have characters like this, if they wanted to have a show full of complete assholes and meta humor, then they should have just made their own thing and left the Scooby-Doo IP alone. Now despite all the flaws, there are a few small positives I've noticed with the show. The hallucinations that Velma has I thought were interesting. They gave her character a flaw that forced her to struggle with her goals, and she does eventually figure out how to get rid of it. The only real issue with it was that they got rid of it a little too early. I already said how I thought the concept of the story was interesting, and to basically summarize it, the plot revolves around a serial killer removing the brains of teenage girls, and Velma thinks her missing mom is connected to all of it. Velma eventually finds her mom, but it was done in a pretty unsatisfying way, and they also reveal that she was the serial killer, but then they reveal that she was being hypnotized by the true killer, who turned out to be Fred's mom. Up until the last part, I thought the whole story was super predictable, like I could tell from a mile away that they were going to reveal that Velma's mom was behind the killings, and I knew they were going to reveal that it wasn't actually her, but instead someone else. I will admit though that I didn't expect Fred's mom to be the true mastermind. That did take me by surprise, and I thought the twist was actually pretty decent, so I'll give you that, Velma. I should mention however that there were a few C-plots that they kinda left unresolved, like Shaggy and his girlfriend, I think her name is Gigi, Daphne's birth parents, and Project Scooby felt unresolved, but I guess season 2 has the opportunity to explore all that. Overall, despite some of the few highlights I mentioned, the show itself is a total mess, and honestly, it feels like this was done on purpose. If there's one thing that Hollywood cares about, that thing would be money. And in order to get money, they need people to watch their content. One successful way of doing this is by making something that people want to see, something that actually looks good. But there's another way that Velma exploits, and that would be making something so bad and awful that people will watch it just to hate on it. The reason this is a problem is because if Velma is successful, then it will encourage HBO Max to keep the series going, in fact it already has, and it will encourage other writers to do the same thing with other iconic franchises, which I don't think any of us want. In summary, it doesn't matter how good or bad something is, because as long as people watch it, then it looks like a success in the eyes of Hollywood. Realistically, they don't give a crap about us, they just want money, and if making something as awful as Velma will get them that money, then you know damn well they're going to take advantage of that. The best way we can prevent this from happening is by boycotting anything that looks just as bad as Velma, which means don't watch the show. If you really want to watch something just to hate on it, there are other solutions, but I'm not going to mention them because I don't want to get demonetized. But what I can say is, when Velma Season 2 comes out, don't watch it unless you're actually going to review it. In fact, I'm not even sure if I'm going to watch it, and here I am reviewing the show. So yeah, basically just pretend that Hollywood are internet trolls. If they make something that pisses you off, don't watch it, because you're just letting them win by doing so. Anyways, that's about it for this video. If you made it this far, thanks for watching, and if you want to see more stuff from me, like and subscribe, and turn on the bell to be notified when I upload a new video, and if you want to support me further, follow me on Twitter, and become a channel member to get access to special features, but it's your choice if you want to. And yeah, thanks again for watching, and peace out.
Just being a white guy with a clipboard doesn't cut it anymore.